Man, after game 3 of the NBA Finals, this broom came out because I legit thought that this was going to be a sweep. Boston looked dominant. They got that win in Dallas, and I just thought Mavs, they had their tickets booked for Cancun. But actually, Mavs had their tickets booked for Boston because in game 4, they came out in dominant fashion, getting their first win of the NBA Final. So in this video, we're going to break down games 3 and 4 of the NBA Finals. We're going to look at specifically the tactical and the mental sides of the game. And we're going to look at, okay, what could be in store for game 5 of the NBA Finals. So first, looking at game 3 of the NBA Finals, we saw Boston were really coming into this series at a good standpoint. Tactically and mentally, they were clicking on all cylinders with a dominant game 1 and not as dominant game 2, but they still secured the win. We see in game 3, from a tactical standpoint, they still stuck to their defensive and offensive principles, trying to neutralize Dallas's pick and roll offense and making sure on defense that they're all working together. And then offensively, they're trying to headhunt, they're trying to get their matchups, they're trying to put Luka Doncic in those defensive assignments and trying to get the Mavs in rotation. So then that helps Boston then get easy wide open shots. And we saw that in abundance in the third quarter. So really, a lot of the things that we saw in games 1 and 2 translated into game 3 as well. Even though the Mavs did make a really good comeback in game 3, we really saw that Boston did have the game under control and they were able to maintain their composure to then seal the win. From a psychological standpoint, even though team cohesion was really important in this game as well, we can really see that their levels of team cohesion really stem from the coaching masterclass that Joe Mazzulla is currently putting on. We can see that his offensive knowledge is just at such a great level, and we can see that his levels and ability to communicate this is also really good. We can also see when we explore a bit of research that when leadership styles of coaches match really well to a team, levels of team cohesion also follow. And as we said previously in the game 1 and 2 analysis on this channel, we can see that team cohesion has a positive impact on team performance, and then team performance has a positive impact on team cohesion. So it's just a very well-rounded, well-oiled machine the Boston Celtics have, and it starts at the top as a coach, and that filters down to each player knowing their specific assignments, and ultimately that helps the team perform at the high level that they were doing in game 3. Looking at the Dallas Mavericks, that was a heartbreaking game for them. Like, they had it, they were really close to winning it, in all honesty. Yes, they were down crazy bad in the third quarter, but they did bring it back and they were close to winning it. But Luka Doncic, man, that was not a good game for him. From a tactical standpoint, we can see that he was kind of playing into Boston's hand in the sense of not really trying a lot on defense. We saw all the plays where Boston were just blowing past him or he was missing his defensive coverage. And then we can see when Luka was on the offensive side, he was never getting the mismatch that he wanted. He was always playing against a first team all NBA defender, and so that just made his life really difficult, and he took that frustration out on the refs or on staff members on his team. And so from a psychological standpoint, we can see that Luka's levels of emotion regulation in that game specifically just weren't great at all. He wasn't able to manage his emotions or use some strategies to actually help him promote that positive emotional state that he needed for that performance. And so he got into crazy fouls which weren't great, and those fouls then kind of had a negative impact on not only his performance but then his team's performance. We can see that when he got fouled out, it just felt like the energy of the team, their ability to understand what they needed to do in that situation significantly decreased because their main player, their superstar, wasn't on the court. So although that was a bad game for Luka and a heartbreaking loss for the Dallas Mavericks, there is still a game 4. And in this game 4, Dallas came out with some desperation. We can see that tactically on the defensive side of the court, there wasn't a lot of changes that they made from a tactical standpoint. There was only a couple, but mainly what we saw is just those levels of effort and aggression just heightened compared to any other match in this series. We saw them diving for loose balls, helping each other out, securing the rebound, making life difficult for Boston. Like, everything that went right with Dallas really started from the defensive side of the floor. We can see that negatively impacted Boston's tactics, so their ability to find those mismatches. If they're trying to headhunt for Luka, and now Luka's playing defense and actually engaging in there, it's making it a lot more difficult for them to blow by Luka, and for that to then trigger Mavs to rotate and for Boston to get those easy shots because those effort levels are so high. And thinking about the body language and the actions of Luka Doncic, it's just such a crazy difference from game 3 to game 4. We can see in game 3 he was screaming at the refs for everything, and that negatively impacted Dallas when they were back on defense, and that ultimately led Dallas not to have a great game, Luka to kind of foul out, etc. But then in game 4, there was rarely any time that Luka was complaining at the refs, and we can see that body language and that change in approach, I feel, had a really positive impact not only on his game specifically, but overall on the Dallas Mavericks, as their focus wasn't on the refs and what the refs weren't doing, but more on the team and what they can control and putting themselves in good positions to score or defend. So when we think of Dallas's defensive aggression, that really impacted the Boston Celtics mentally, as that heightened levels of aggression impacted Celtics' decision-making abilities. We can see, for example, Drew Holiday, someone who had been dominating in just his playmaking abilities, had 0 turnovers in games 1 to 3. But then in this game, with Dallas's heightened levels of aggression, he had around 5 turnovers in this game. So we can really see that Dallas's defensive aggression really did impact specific players on the Boston Celtics and their decision-making abilities. But then it also impacted Boston as a whole and their ability to shoot the ball and do that really well. We can see those high levels of aggression that Dallas showed on the defensive side of the floor had a positive impact on their offensive abilities. We saw that Doncic was getting back into how Mavs typically play, with pushing the ball a bit more, whether that's dribbling up or passing the ball ahead, trying to get easy offense, easy baskets, getting the switches that they want, and then Luka going ISO or making great decisions. So the way that Mavs have been playing throughout their Western Conference playoff series, it was really apparent that that's what they were able to do in this game 4, and that was mainly due to their levels of aggression on the defensive side. Also, what we can see for the Dallas Mavericks is Kyrie Irving. He actually woke up and he is in this series. Both games 3 and 4 he played really well, but we can really see that now that he was playing at home, he just felt like a lot more comfortable. He wasn't forcing anything. He was a lot more efficient on the floor, and that really helped the Dallas Mavericks be very close in game 3 and then ultimately get the win in game 4. And so now we can see what's happened in game 3 and 4. What is in store for game 5? I think game 5 is going to be quite interesting. From a psychological standpoint, I feel like a very important factor for game 5 and who wins it is going to be momentum. I think momentum is something that we can see in a lot of physical factors, but momentum also has a lot of psychological impacts on athletes and teams as well. And with Dallas's win in game 4, there could be a lot of momentum that can swing on either side of Boston and Dallas. Dallas could have some momentum now that they've won game 4 in dominant fashion, so they might have more confidence knowing that they can actually produce that performance. Dallas could also have some momentum when we think about Tim Hardaway Jr. in that fourth quarter just going crazy and actually waking up and scoring for once in this NBA Finals. And as he was their third leading scorer in the regular season, that momentum could carry over into Game 5. Boston could have some momentum knowing that in games 1 and 2 when they were home, they won. So then now going back home, they could have some momentum there. They could also have some momentum knowing how well they play when Porzingis plays, and Porzingis is questionable for that game, so that could be a potential positive momentum swing for Boston or a negative momentum swing for Dallas. So I feel like momentum is going to play a really big element in who wins this game 5 back at Boston. So this game 5 could be quite interesting. Can Dallas manage that pressure of playing in Boston, knowing that Kyrie is going to get booed like crazy, knowing that he doesn't have a great record against them? Can Boston finish this series at home? Maybe that's a bit of a conspiracy theory. Did Celtics lose this game on purpose so they can win at home? Who knows? This will be an interesting game 5. But thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.